What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 3 of the Downtown Browntown podcast. I'm your host, Downtown Browntown. Today, we are going to be discussing some recent news going on with the Bucks, as well as 3 key things that I think they need to improve on to make that trip to the NBA Finals that we all want. So let's dive into the news right away. The Bucks have released their city jersey for this season. It's really sharp. I like the 2 shades of blue they got going on. It's easily the best city jersey that they've released. It looks really, really sharp with the shorts as well, a little black and blue going on there. Really, really like them. I'll definitely be rocking one this year. Can't wait to get my hands on one. These are the best city jerseys they've ever had. If you can remember, 2 seasons ago, they had the Mecca themed jerseys that were the red, yellow, and orange McDonald's looking ones. Wasn't a fan of those whatsoever. Last year, they stepped it up a little bit with the Cream City. Really like the color scheme there, but didn't really love that said Cream City on there, and I thought they could have done a little bit more with it. But this year, I thought they definitely improved. They could have done a couple other things to spice it up a bit, but really happy with how it looks. It looks super sharp, and can't wait to see Giannis, Middleton, Drew, and the boys rocking them. It's going to be awesome. So next, the NBA has starting to release some of the schedule for this upcoming season. We do know now that the Bucks open up Wednesday, December 23rd, 3 weeks from now, which doesn't even seem realistic, in Boston against the Boston Celtics, 6:30 p.m. Central on TNT. Cannot wait to watch that one. We all know Middleton just tears up the Celtics. Can't wait to see him drop 30 plus on them, and the Bucks go to 1-0. And also, we found out that the Bucks will be playing the Golden State Warriors on Christmas Day at, I believe, 1:30 Central Time at the Fiserv Forum. And yeah, it is as happy as I am that they finally got that home game at Fiserv Forum. It's just absolutely depressing that there's going to be no fans there. I definitely would have went if I could have, but obviously no one will be attending, so that is very disappointing. But still, be really cool to see the Bucks take on Steph Curry, Draymond Green, second overall pick James Wiseman, and the Golden State Warriors in Milwaukee on Christmas Day. Cannot wait for that. But the segue into my next topic is that the Bucks announced that they will not be having fans at Fiserv Forum to start the regular season. We'll see what ends up happening. I think only 8 to 10 teams are having a limited capacity of fans to start the season. So not surprising at all, the Bucks are one of the teams that will not be having fans. I'm confident that they will at some point. Obviously, there's a bunch of news about these vaccines getting released soon to medical professionals, and hopefully they'll be out to the general public sooner than later so that Fiserv Forum can start having some fans in there, generating some revenue for the team, and having that home crowd that really fuels the Bucks. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Back to the schedule as well. The NBA is doing something a little different this year, and they're releasing the schedule in 2 different phases. So phase 1 will be the first half of the season. Phase 2 will be the second half of the season. The reason for doing that is because there's a great chance that games will be postponed, potentially canceled because of the COVID restrictions. So by releasing phase 1 with half the games and then phase 2, the other half, they've got some flexibility to add some games into phase 2 for teams that maybe had to cancel or postpone games because of COVID. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. I really don't know if every team will get through 72 games. It could be they end up doing something like last season in the bubble where they ended up going on win percentage and teams didn't play the same amount of games as everyone. So really curious to see how that works. The NBA does not have the luxury of the NFL where they only play 1 game a week and they can shuffle things around pretty quickly like they did today with a Wednesday afternoon game with the Steelers and Ravens. So the NBA doesn't really have that luxury, and even the MLB has a lot more luxury because although they play a lot more games, they're playing in the same cities for multiple games in a row. So it's going to be tough for the NBA to shuffle things around a lot. They're definitely trying to have teams travel, like be in certain parts of the country together at one time so that they can knock these games out and then have a bunch of home games right after that. So really curious to see how that ends up working out for them. But I think they'll get through the season, and there will be Bucks fans in Fiserv Forum. towards the latter end of the season and for the playoffs. So can't wait to see what happens there. Before we get into the three things that the Bucks need to improve on this season to get to that NBA Finals, just want to give a happy birthday shout out to the GOAT, Aaron Rodgers, and my boy, Aaron Jones. I mean, how great is that, right? We've got Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, two great Aarons, birthdays on the same day. Just celebrating a nice victory over the Bears on Sunday night. Got the Eagles this Sunday. Can't wait to watch that one. And just want to give a shout out to the boys and let's get a win and beat those Eagles on Sunday. Can't wait to watch it. We've also got two other MVP birthdays coming up. Christian Yelich's birthday is on December 5th, and our guy, the Greek freak, Giannis, has his birthday on December 6th. Now, we all know we're waiting for that news of Giannis to sign the Supermax or just to hear about it in general. There's so many different swirling reports around there. I check my Twitter frantically pretty much every hour, probably even more, just to be like, did he sign it? Did he sign it? Did he sign it? I'm just like, it's just driving me insane. I'm just seeing all these mainstream reports like, how talking about how Giannis wants to team up with other superstars, but they specifically exclude that he said he had a quote that he said he would love to have LeBron, AD, or KD join him in Milwaukee, but obviously they exclude that because they're just trying to get clickbait and try and have the conversation of Giannis leaving Milwaukee because everyone outside of Milwaukee wants him to leave. So it's just driving me nuts. I just want to see what happens with it. I just want to know at this point. Like, even if he doesn't sign it, I just want to know. But I still have some hope that he's going to sign it here soon. He got back to Milwaukee on Sunday, I believe, and there's reports that he's going to meet with the Bucks sometime this week to discuss the contract situation. So I'm thinking we'll have some sort of news by Monday, but I guess we'll see what happens. And let's just pray that Giannis decides to stay in Milwaukee and we can all just enjoy this season without that looming thought over our heads of, oh, the Bucks have a one bad game, Giannis is gone, or the Bucks are killing it, oh, he's going to stay now. Like, it's just going to be an absolute nightmare if we have to live through that the whole season. So I guess we'll see what happens there. So now let's dive into the three things I think the Bucks need to improve on to get to the NBA Finals. One is going to be their 3-point / high pick and roll defense. So they've run into many issues in the past two playoff runs where the point guard will be up by the 3-point line at the top of the key, and they'll bring their big guy to screen Eric Bledsoe usually, and Brook Lopez will usually just kind of hang right around the free throw line and won't really step up to the three-point shooter. So we either just give up a really easy 3-pointer, or the center ends up rolling and they end up taking it to the hole. That's been a big problem for us. Brook Lopez has gotten exploited by that. He's great interior defense, rim protector, absolutely fantastic. But when it comes to that high pick and roll game, he really struggles, and teams exploit that. If you remember 2 playoff runs ago when we played the Toronto Raptors, Marc Gasol and Kyle Lowry really excelled in that, and that ended up being to our demise. And it sometimes made Brook Lopez unplayable, especially for a big man who can shoot threes like a Marc Gasol, who after he takes that pick, he can kind of just leak back to the 3-point line and hit a wide open shot. So Brook is hesitant to go out too far because he's not a great perimeter defender and he likes to stay in the paint. But that's something that the Bucks really, really need to improve on, or else they're going to have to figure out some other way to use Brook's skill set and really complement him from that perspective on defense. So in terms of that, they really need to improve on that, especially in the playoffs, as well as their 3-point defense. I think sometimes they're just a little too lackluster in giving up those open corner threes. They get better at times. They have stretches where they're really, really aggressive on closing out on those shots. Like we saw in the bubble game against the Miami Heat last year. This was actually during the 8-game regular season when they resumed the season. If you remember, the Bucks were down, I think, 20 plus points in the first half and ended up coming back and winning by, I think, 20 points in that game, because they were, the second half, they just came out and absolutely were so aggressive on defending the 3-pointer, and it really helped them. There's just times where they just don't step up enough and are too worried about giving up the points in the paint, where they give up these open threes, and a lot of times, yeah, these guys aren't going to make it. But when you've got Duncan Robinsons, you've got Jay Crowders, you've got these guys like the Miami Heat have who can hit these open corner shots. Like, you can't be giving those up so easily. It's just gifting the other team points. So that's something the Bucks really, really need to improve on. I think the acquisition of Drew Holiday is really going to help that. He's a dog on defense. Eric Bledsoe is obviously a great player and a great defender as well, but I think he struggled a little bit at times defending the three, where Drew Holiday is definitely known to be more of a three-point defender and gets up on guys more. I've watched some of his highlights lately, and he really he takes stride of getting up to the point of attack and making sure that guys aren't just going to hit that open shot. And he's quick enough on his feet where if they decide to pump fake and go, that he's going to be able to keep up with them. So I think he's really going to help with that aspect. And one of my next couple points here, I'll illustrate something else that I think will help with the three-point defense. But that's number one for me. The defense has just got to stay more consistent and more of a, like a whole comprehensive defense. The Bucks defend the paint really well. They're really good at defending the mid-range game, getting steals, being active, and getting that fast break to go. But they just struggle at that high pick and roll in the three-point defense, especially last season in the bubble. So hopefully they can improve on that this season. So number two for me is going to be defining their rotations. This is a big one for me, and it's really on Coach Budenholzer. I mean, the Bucks just have been known to play like 10, 11 guys deep, which is fine. But like when you're in the playoffs, you can't be doing that. You got to run 8 to 9 max, I would say, and not put these lineups like they did last year, like a George Hill, Marvin Williams, Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, and like Chris Middleton or Giannis. Like that's just not a playoff lineup. You've got to be playing the Giannis's, the Chris Middletons, the Drew Holidays 40 minutes in the playoffs and not having the end of the bench guys really getting any minutes at all. I get it. Sometimes you're just looking for a spark, looking to change things up when things are lackluster, specifically on the offensive end, sometimes even the defensive end. Throwing in a guy like a Pat Connaughton who has a bunch of energy, a Dante DiVincenzo, sometimes even Sterling Brown in the past when he was on the Bucks, they'd throw him in there just for a couple minutes, and if he provided some spark, then they'd keep him in there for a little longer. Otherwise, he'd have a really short leash. This is something the Bucks really need to figure out. I love the lineup of Drew Holiday, Torrey Craig, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. That is an all-defensive NBA type lineup, and I really hope that ends up being their closing lineup in the fourth quarter of playoff games and key regular season games, and really any game, because that is just a deadly defensive lineup. Torrey Craig is going to take that Wesley Matthews role where he's guarding the number one offensive threat on the opposing team. And if he can hit his three-pointers, especially, I mean, he's going to prove to be such an important player for the Bucks this season. And I think he's got a lot of room to grow. He's gotten better every single season, and he's one of those guys who was undrafted, who just needed to get on a roster and was, on G League teams. And then eventually the Denver Nuggets signed him, and he got a couple minutes here and there. And just every time he got an opportunity, he excelled in that opportunity. And his opportunity ended up growing because he made such an impact. So I think he's going to be such an important player for this team. He was great for Denver last year, and they're really going to miss him. I still can't believe they gave him up, and we signed him for a veteran minimum, which was actually just confirmed a couple of days ago. So that's just an absolutely amazing signing. I love that lineup for them, but I think something else that the Bucks are going to have to figure out is how to figure out a small ball type of lineup. I think they've got the team to do it this year. With the pickup of a Bobby Portis, you can run him and Giannis at the 4 and the 5, and then throw out like Drew, Craig, and Middleton. Or if you need a little more offense, Drew, Dante, Middleton with those two guys. Giannis is great at the 5. I prefer him at the 4 because then he can kind of roam around a little bit more and block shots and be a little more active. Versus when he's guarding center, sometimes when they're staying in the paint a little more, just sitting out on the three-point line, he's not as active and as involved in the defensive scheme. But I I would love to see Giannis play the 5 a lot more, and I think he's going to have to, because we don't have the front court depth that we've had in years past without a Robin Lopez, without an Ersan Ilyasova, no Marvin Williams. Excuse me. We'll see what DJ Wilson is this year. I mean, this is his last shot to be anything in this league. I don't even know if we're going to give him a chance, to be honest, but who knows? With the COVID restrictions, obviously, if guys are forced to miss games, then a guy like a DJ Wilson's going to have to step in there and see what he can do. So I think the Bucks really have the roster for a lot of small ball lineups, and we've seen a lot of teams excel in that. Look at the Miami Heat running Bam Adebayo at the 5 and going with like a Jimmy Butler, Jay Crowder, Goran Dragic, Duncan Robinson type lineup where they've got all shooters, and then Bam, who is this great shot blocker, rim protector, even though he's a little undersized for a center, but that's just such an athletic lineup who can switch on all 5 positions. So I really think a lineup like, even DJ Augustine, Drew Holiday, Dante, Middleton, and Giannis, or take out Dante, throw in Torrey Craig, or take out DJ Augustine and do a Drew, Middleton, Dante, Portis, Giannis. We've got so many options to run some small ball lineups here, and I think this is something that Coach Budenholzer really needs to look into and implement into our game plans this year. And that's the thing with the Bucks, is they need to just figure out more who they are. I mean, they've got so many different players on this team than they did in years past, and it's going to be a new team. We've got to just adjust to different teams and different defensive schemes, and not just stick with the game plan of, just letting it fly all the time and just shooting threes. And that brings me to my third point, which is the Bucks just need to be more well-rounded on offense. And what I mean by that is, like I said, the Bucks get caught sometimes into just chucking those early threes in the shot clock where they'll dribble up to the front of the key, and sometimes like Bledsoe, Middleton, guys like that would just shoot a 3 with like only 8 seconds into the shot clock. It's like, dude, why are you doing that? I mean, if you make it, then yeah, it's a good shot, but like, you got to work it a little bit more when you got Giannis on the floor and you've got guys who can make plays, especially like they do now with Drew Holiday, who's an improved playmaker over Bledsoe. They really need to work the clock a little bit more and just be more of a well-rounded offense. And that goes to Coach Budenholzer as well. I think he needs to adapt to teams that we're playing. Like, if there's teams that like to slow it down a little bit, then we need to develop the fast break game a little more and run our pace. Sometimes he gets a little too caught into trying to always control or like kind of go with what teams want to do in terms of pace. Like a San Antonio Spurs, for example, they're a very slow paced team. Utah Jazz as well, very slow paced team, like to work the clock a lot and get a shot towards the end of it and look for a good shot. But sometimes the Bucks just get way too caught up in shooting those threes and bad threes a lot of the times too. I mean, we can make them. Middleton makes absolutely insane threes sometimes, and his turnaround Jays from the mid-range are just crazy. And I don't know how he makes them sometimes, but I just think that the Bucks this year especially, they've got a lot of different players and they have a lot more offensive playmakers. So they really need to take advantage of those playmakers and just go with the flow of the game sometimes. Like, don't go into every game and be like, all right, guys, we're going to let it fly. And that's what we're going to do. If the shots fall, we're going to win. If the shots don't fall, we're going to lose. That just doesn't make sense in today's NBA, especially for a team like the Bucks who needs to win this season and get to that NBA Finals that we all want them to get to. Now we've got guys like DJ Augustines, like Bryn Forbes, like Bobby Portis, who have pretty broad offensive skill sets, and we need to take advantage of those and really develop specific game plans for each game. It's kind of like the NFL where, Matt LaFleur does a great job at changing his game plan each game and really exploiting weaknesses of defenses. You saw against the Chicago Bears this Sunday night where Akeem Hicks was out of the game. He is arguably one of the best run stuffers in the game. And what did they do? They ran a lot of Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams up the gut, and it really worked for them and opened up the play action game to guys like Adams and Tunyon and Lazard. So I think that's something that Budenholzer really needs to work on, is just expanding his offensive mindset a little bit and being like, okay, we're playing a Miami Heat team who has a lot of fast guys who like to shoot and are good defenders, but they're a little undersized. And that's a team maybe where you want to give it to Brook Lopez in the paint more and let him do his thing, back up and hit those little hook shots. I mean, once upon a time, Brook Lopez was an all-star in the Brooklyn Nets, a 20-10 guy who was just a primarily paint scorer. He wasn't shooting threes at all. If you look at his number of three-pointers taken, like in his first couple of years, he hardly took any. And as he got a little older and his his little versatility and quickness in the paint deteriorated a little bit, he started sagging out to the three more and taking more threes, and he can hit them. But I mean, that's a guy where, like I said, against the Miami Heat, you throw a Giannis and a Brook Lopez in there, and although Bam Adebayo, great defender, those are two absolutely huge guys that they're not going to be able to defend them as well. And you got to kind of slow down the pace a little bit. You don't want to play fast against Miami when you got Jimmy Butler and Dragic running the pick and roll, or sorry, not the pick and roll, fast break, and just in their defense, they swarm out on the perimeter and try and get steals and just run and go to the fast break game. That's a game where you got to try and slow down the pace a little bit and play it in the paint more. And that's just something that they need to work on a little bit. It's like the Boston Celtics as well. That's one team where they always seem to know how to play offense against them, because we all know they don't have guys to defend Giannis. They throwing Daniel Tice on him, like Semi Ojeleye, Marcus Smart, like get out of here. Giannis is just going to slam on them all day. He absolutely dominates them. Chris Middleton and Giannis just absolutely destroy the Celtics. I'm so glad we're opening up with them this coming season. Cannot wait for it. That's what I'm saying, is just the Bucks really need to work on their offensive skill sets and just develop game plans specific to the teams that they're playing, rather than just, I'm going to stick to my system and I'm going to ride or die with the system. We all saw, like, when Mike McCarthy in his last few years in Green Bay, he came into the league and looked like this innovator, this great offensive play caller. He's got an Aaron Rodgers, a Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Jermichael Finley. We win a Super Bowl. Everyone's like, oh, this guy's such a great coach, and he is. But he didn't adapt at all. He got stuck on his ways and just ended up not really developing his playbook at all. And obviously Rodgers got sick of it. The players got sick of it, and we ran him out of town. And look what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. Obviously, it's tough when they lose Dak Prescott, but still, that's just something where when you see coaches not adapting, that they end up losing some credibility, and you end up seeing it on the court or on the field, like you did with Mike McCarthy at the end of his tenure in Green Bay. So I don't want to see that happen to Coach Budenholzer. I think he's got the tools and he's got the knowledge to develop these game plans, but we just haven't seen it consistently from him. So just to recap here, the three things I think the Bucks need to improve on next season to make that NBA Finals appearance that we've all been waiting for. One is high pick and roll defense, as well as 3-point defense. Two is knowing their rotations, developing rotations. And three is being more diverse on offense and developing specific game plans to attack their opponents and get wins. So that's all I've got today for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter as well, at Brown33Jake. I post all the episodes on there as well. And please give me some feedback. And if you like it, also share it with some people that you think would be interested. That'd be greatly appreciated. And can't wait to talk to you guys next week.